So in this video we're going to go over my top 3 things that you need for big arm development, and we're going to talk about the top 3 most important things you should be doing for your arms and what you need to grow big arms, and we'll go over each specific thing in detail. Now the first one would just be bulk. Honestly, this is the most basic thing, but if you want big arms you're gonna have to do, most likely you're gonna have to do, I would say 2 to 3 big bulks, depending on how long they are and how hard you go at it and how good your genetics are. Of course, you're gonna have to go through a bulk if you really want to get big arms. That's the only way to really go about it. And yes, you can make progress a little bit while cutting and maintaining and things like that, but at the end of the day you're going to have to bulk. The arms are especially a body part that enjoys a bulk pretty much. It's kind of similar to the bench press, where you're going to have to bulk if you want progress. It's not gonna just happen otherwise. And after that, pretty much you're gonna have to have good exercise selection, volume and intensity in your workouts. So good exercise selection, by that I mean for the biceps, triceps and forearms, you're going to have to pick exercises which are going to hit the different parts of the muscles in different ways. So you're going to have things like a weighted stretch movement, movement that is very intense and heavy for a different part of the arm. Then you want to have some kind of a movement that perhaps is better for recovery and things like that, and just hitting the different angles of the arms in different ways. And it kind of varies from forearms to biceps to triceps. I would say biceps and triceps are fairly similar in how they work, but the forearms can require some extra different exercise selection that you have to learn. And that's really the most important part. Is after that, once you have the exercise selection, you need intensity and volume correctly as well. So the correct volume for arms is very important. You need to have, I personally train arms 3 times a week. You can spread it out however you want. You can train it 2 times a week, but you also have to have the volume and intensity there to grow. So for me, the volume needs to be, you need to do at least a minimum of 10 sets a week, I would say, to grow your arms. And that's where you have to go pretty intense though with the volume. For a beginner it works better. For an intermediate, I would say even like 12 sets a week is pretty good, and 12 sets to 16 sets a week is good. But anywhere between 10 and 20 sets a week is pretty good for the arms, for one part, so like a bicep or a tricep or forearm. I find at the start, if you're like training for example forearms, you can take it a little bit easier and not do so much volume when you're getting used to it. If you're not used to training forearms, that's something you can kind of just get the beginner gains if you haven't trained it before. But at the end of the day, you're going to need quite a bit of volume, and you have to experiment with volume and see how much you need personally to really figure it out. I can't tell you that. That's something you have to kind of experiment at the gym with and your body, because everybody's different at the end of the day. And intensity wise, you have to just pick a weight that's intense and pick, usually the intense sets can be done more so with the heavier movements. So like a skull crusher or like a bicep barbell curl, you can do the heavy movement very intense, and then you can maybe taper off a little bit on the other movements like a weighted stretch and focus more on the range of motion of the movement. So next, if you want like the silver era, if you're a Natty, massive type arms, I'd say for a Natty, Arnold type stuff is probably out of reach unless you have really good genetics. So if you really want the silver era type arm look, I think the most important part is like prioritizing arms and arm development overall. Like adding something like an arm day makes a huge difference, because you can really focus on the arms and you're going to be able to just have more exercises, more volume. You're going to be able to spread it throughout the week. You can focus, because you lose a lot of energy doing things like bench press and things like that. Though the bench press and doing dips and things like that will develop the triceps, for example. And perhaps using like a underhand grip can help you with bicep development on different movements, but usually if you have good genetics, those help a lot. But at the end of the day, what you really need is like isolation movements, and that's really what's going to grow your arms overall way more than doing like bench press and compound movements and just using different grips. Because at the end of the day, the grips might help a little bit, but at the end of the day what really matters is adding in something which actually is going to give you some kind of a way to stretch, a peak contraction or a heavy movement, which is going to allow you to develop your arms in the most optimal way. For most people that's going to be the case, since you're not gonna if you're a natty and you want to grow big arms, you're just gonna have to follow these, I'd say, 3 simple tips. These are the most basic things you need to grow arms. You can of course go deeper, and I do have another arm video done where I explain my programming and the things you need to grow your arms, which is on my channel under informational playlist. But either way, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. That was the third tip. Just focus on prioritizing the arms if you really want big arms, so you can do arms before compound movements and things like that, and that is going to also help you because you have more energy for doing your different arm movements. And for example, you can do biceps for a bench press and you'll have more energy to do the biceps, as well as you can kind of use it as a warm-up for your elbows for the bench press and overall for your body. So that's something I found that is pretty good as well. Anyhow, I hope you got something out of this video, and thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, leave them below.